Hello guys, welcome back to a new video, and today we're going to talk about a topic that is quite interesting. The topic that we are going to talk about is emotional abuse. As we all know, there are different kinds of abuse. Probably the most common one that we know is physical abuse, even though there are also other kind of abuses, but the one that we are going to go into today, it's emotional abuse. Emotional abuse, it's a kind of abuse that usually it's not that highlighted. It's a bit more hidden type of abuse. And let's say that this kind of abuse, it does not happen like from one day to another. It's more likely to happen over a long period of time, and it happens like kind of like in more of a slow. It can happen like a more slowly rather than other kinds of abuses. A narcissistic person usually carries out this kind of abuse to gain power and control over somebody else, over another person. And if you guys would like to also go and check, I made two videos. One it's called How to Outsmart a Narcissist, and the other one it's about narcissistic rage. You might can have a little bit of understanding on how narcissistic people have this kind of inability. These videos do not talk about exactly about the fact that narcissistic people have this inability. It's not like specific to that, but at least you can have like a little bit of understanding of how narcissistic people have this kind of inability to deal with their own uncomfortable feelings and emotions. And this is also the reason for why narcissistic people crave wants to act and manifest this kind of emotional abuse over other people, also obviously because to gain, as mentioned before, to gain power and control over somebody else. And said this and closed parenthesis, emotional abuse is when somebody really tries to get into the mind of another person, really tries to brainwash another person, and also tries to diminish the self-esteem and the self-confidence of this person. I also would like to specify that emotional abuse does not only happen, is not like only carried out by narcissistic people, but it can be carried out also by somebody who's just generally unhealthy, who we can call a toxic person. Let's say that even narcissistic people are toxic people, but in this occasion, we gonna differentiate a little bit. Let's say that the toxic person in this video only, let's say that to differentiate them, that when we say toxic, we're going to talk about a person who does not have narcissistic personality disorder, and then we have the narcissist. In this way we can at least give a little bit of separation, even though both of them are actually toxic. But somebody who carries this abuse, it does not mean that is necessarily a narcissistic, or somebody who suffers from narcissistic personality disorder. It can be also a person who does not suffer from this disorder, but still does have some ego issues, and they are very self-absorbed, and these kind of things, these kind of patterns are still there. The difference between the fact that this abuse can be carried out from a toxic person or a narcissistic person relies in the fact that both of them crave power and control, but the unfortunately the narcissistic person, if you are into a narcissistic relationship and you are going up with this kind of abuse, definitely this kind of abuse is going to be much more stronger, intense, and consistent. That's because a person who is toxic, who does not suffer from narcissistic personality disorder, is more likely to little bit like realize. I'm not saying that this is going to be for sure, because obviously everybody is different, and this obviously cannot apply to every person. But overall, let's say that somebody who does not suffer from narcissistic personality disorder is more likely, there are more chances that this person realizes that what they are doing is abusive and can cause harm to another person, to another human being. On the other side, a narcissist, even though they realize that what they are doing is not like very correct, and it's something that can actually cause harm to another person, a narcissistic person can't just help themselves. They can't just help themselves. That's the problem. And that's because they have this constant need of narcissistic supply, which without they can't function. And that's kind of like oxygen to them. They kind of like crave it, almost like oxygen, water, and it's a kind of like basic need for them. Let's now try to understand how emotional abuse takes place. There are different forms of emotional abuse. I could say like these are all elements of emotional abuse. They are all part of the same type of abuse that can actually happen in different ways. So let's start with boundaries. When somebody who tries to constantly test your boundaries, this definitely can make you realize that this person is an emotionally abusive person. And that's because if you are like a person who has a very low self-confidence and self-esteem, probably when they try to test your boundaries, most definitely they will ultimately end up violating those boundaries, and they will cross that line that you have for yourself, which after which you don't allow people to go through, because you have your own belief system and your own ethic and moral, and this is something that you consider a line which other people cannot cross. When you are like more likely to be less confident, you have less little bit you don't have that much self-esteem, in that case it's more likely that each person you will violate your boundaries. Let's say if you are a very confident person and you have a very good self or sense of self, in that case most probably if you try to reinforce your boundary, or if you say no to this person will somehow try to use manipulation over you. For example, that you said no to this person for a request that this person has made to you, or for any reason you have tried to, obviously as we said, you try to reinforce your boundary, this person is going to is going to make you feel guilty for saying no to them, and this is a form of emotional abuse. And this is also probably one of the most favorite types of emotional abuse that abusive people like a lot, manipulation, to use this kind of form of abuse. So this was one example of manipulation. And alongside, obviously, even if you are a confident person and you say no to this person, still there will be also chances that this person will also start to become a little bit, I would say, nasty with you, because there will be this anger towards you from this person, and there is more likely that you can be also verbally abused from this toxic person or a narcissist. And obviously, as we said also in the beginning, emotional abuse is a kind of abuse that is more subtle and does not happen from one day to another. So even if this person is going to verbally abuse you, is not going to be like that bad and intense and strong kind of abuse, verbal abuse. They are more likely to do like some kind of passive aggressive comments on you, on your looks, on whichever kind of the situation is. So they're more likely to make some negative comments on you, but more likely to be in a subtle way. So this happened over a long period of time. And yeah, so this was part of manipulation. And now let's go to another form of emotional abuse. We already saw boundaries and manipulation. Let's try to now go into another form of emotional abuse that is quite dangerous as well, which is gaslighting. Gaslighting happens when gaslighting means when you're being gaslighted, it means that this toxic or narcissistic person actually is trying to make you doubt your own reality. In other words, when you're being gaslighted from a narcissistic person or a toxic person, it means that this person is actually trying to make you feel not sane. They're trying to make you feel insane, in other words. And this is something that you really need to be aware of, because it can be extremely dangerous. Said this, I would like to say that it was pretty much for today, and we had an overview about how emotional abuse looks like. And the reason why I wanted to make this video, it's because I've seen that too many people around are either abusers or either being abused from others. Also, this kind of behavior is usually not something that a person is born with. So it's not like genetic. It's more likely to a learned type of behavior, and usually this behavior is learned into a childhood. And maybe when this person sees other people around, okay, narcissistic person, people develop these things in order to their disorder, and that is part of their disorder, and that is kind of like they're implemented in them. It comes up with their disorder. On the other hand, even a toxic person could have learned this behavior in their childhood, and this type of behavior obviously is being carried out by them because they feel this is the way of how this is the way to live life. And as I was saying, yeah, there are too many people around that unfortunately are going up with this kind of abuse, and I feel like it's very important to actually have knowledge on these topics, because it's not that discussed, it's not like that highlighted, this kind of abuse, and many people don't even have idea. That's the problem, because many people don't even have idea about what is happening to them. And it is important to spread awareness, because obviously this will go to impact in on your general well-being and also in other aspects of your life. Said this, I think that it's time to leave for me now. And if you guys have liked the video, press the like button. And I also would like to invite you guys to subscribe to my channel, so you can have notification when I will make another video. And said this, as always, stay safe, stay tuned, and wish you all the best.